Welcome back, Chico and the Grin. You thought we were gone, but we're back, bitches.
Yes.
Episode number 29.
Yes.
Recording live from Inwood. I am half your host. I am Chico.
I'm
And that's the other half.
the Grin.
And we are back.
It's been so long.
It's been a while. It's been about, 2 months?
Yeah. About that.
So we took a little hiatus. We didn't tell anybody. We just decided to go off the air for a little while.
Yes.
But we're back, and we're going to pick up where we left off. We're going to talk about current events, what we're doing, what we're into,
News
movies,
and politics.
That's right, all those things. We're going to try to be entertaining. We're going to be dark at times. So sit back, relax, open your favorite beer, and join us for a somewhat quick conversation. 45 minutes, an hour, maybe 2 hours. Depends how much we drink. Depends who's here in the studio. And yeah, just enjoy the ride. So let's get this going.
Yeah.
Recent news, we have the fires going on in California. The fires raging throughout
Once again.
right through Southern California.
Yeah. It's like a yearly thing, unfortunately.
Right. I feel like it's becoming more and more frequent. Like even in is this the normal season for that to happen?
I don't know about the season, but I know it happens every year. You know, and every year it gets worse and worse. I remember a few years ago, the worst thing that would happen in the United States on a yearly basis was Tornado Alley.
Right.
Right, and they would have those on a regular basis. Now that doesn't happen so much.
No, like through Nebraska and Oklahoma
Yeah,
and stuff.
now we have hurricanes,
Mhm.
like severe Category 5 hurricanes.
Yeah,
And fires.
Yep, we have,
And
but we get hurricanes in
man.
weird places too, like New York City. We're getting crazy hurricanes, like tropical storms
Yep.
up the eastern border.
which shouldn't be there,
Nope.
but we're getting a tail end of it.
Right.
And these fires in California, I mean, they're saying that most of them are caused by accident or campers.
Yeah.
There's some arson. I don't know. I just know they're out of control and
Yeah.
they can't put them out.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy how, like, first off, how does that fire just start, right? Like, it doesn't just go from being dry forest to just fire.
Well, that's what they're
Right?
saying. Is like it's either arson. Well, because sometimes it's been proven in the past that there's been arson.
Sure.
Campfires that got out of hand.
Yeah.
Or negligence.
Yeah, but it's always man-made.
Yeah, and
Right.
then because for something to get that big naturally, it could be like lightning.
Sure.
Lightning can strike a tree in a dry area.
Yeah,
because
and then
California is hot as hell.
Right, and start a fire.
Yeah, that's possible, but at the rate these things are going, it's like. And then I have a person and a colleague in San Francisco, in the Bay Area, like Oakland area. And he's been putting up alerts about the weather, and he was like, the air in California right now is shit.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's the worst on the planet, and that's saying a lot compared to like China, but because of all this smog and smoke.
Yeah, all the
Damn,
debris, all
man.
the ashes in
Yeah.
the air.
It's not good.
It's interesting because I'm seeing a lot of things on Facebook and on social media saying that it is climate change that is causing these fires. And
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I'm like, does climate change affect a already existing forest fire?
Well, the climate change can make it hotter
Right.
in an area. That makes sense.
Which would make it easier for a fire to start.
Yeah, but a climate change is going to
Start a fire. Right. So I see all these people talking about, especially after Trump's comments about the rake, about raking up. Maybe they should rake the forest more often, right? Did you
Have
hear
they been to a forest?
He was there. They had him in an area that had the fire put out, and he was like, maybe we need to rake more. Maybe raking.
Okay.
Right. Exactly. But like to say that, I feel like all these people are saying it's climate change that's causing these fires. No, it's probably somebody threw a cigarette butt out and it didn't stomp it out, and it just lit a bunch of dry leaves on fire.
There could be a lot of reasons, but the thing is, we need the big problem right now is like there's no money. How am I sounding? I'm good.
Yeah, you're good.
All right. The big thing right now is like there's no money for these emergency services.
Yeah.
A few years ago, there was no money for FEMA. Now there's no money, and that was nationally, right? In case we ever have a national emergency, and FEMA needs to come in again, they don't have the funding to operate functionally. They don't have the funding. So imagine California and what they're going through. There was an article posted about Kanye West and the Kardashians, how they had to pay, or they didn't have to, but they chose to pay a separate service to save their home.
Yeah.
And it's like people who have money are doing that because the regular free firefighters and all this stuff, all these other organizations, they don't have enough resources to come in there and say, we could take care of this with the funds we have. We just don't.
Yeah.
There's no money for it.
It's crazy.
So it's like they have the prisoners coming out now. Well, they've been doing that for a while, but now it's more well known that they have like inmates and juvenile inmates, right? Like legit prisoners. They're
fighting these fires.
Yeah, they're training them to be firefighters. They're coming out here. They're helping with the actual firefighters to put out the fires and go do all the work. And this is dangerous work.
Sure.
The messed up thing about that is that after these guys get out of prison or juvenile hall or detention centers, they can't go get a job as a firefighter, even though they have training and experience
Because they're felons.
because they're felons.
Shouldn't that be an exception?
Nope.
Should it? But in a.
I mean, it should be
in a
an
logical
exception,
world,
but it's not.
That's crazy.
And that's also fucked
So
up.
you spend time and money training these people on how to do this, and then when they get out and they've served their time, they can't get they can't get gainfully employed in what they've been trained, in which they might even be good at.
Which is the prison industrial complex.
That is some crazy shit.
Up. And they are risking their lives, man.
And do they have a choice to do this?
I'm pretty sure you could probably do, because I mean, I don't know. You know what? I don't know if they have a choice. I assume they have a choice because from what I know of the prison labor, you have to work.
Sure.
So you could pick like the jobs that you
yeah.
want. If you're a good inmate, stuff like that, you
Mhm.
can get certain jobs. I don't really know. That's just what I know of the jobs in prison. So I don't know.
I feel like as an inmate, I guess they would, maybe they wouldn't tell you. They're like, hey, we're gonna train how to be a firefighter, and then in your mind you're like, cool, I'm learn how to do this, and when I get out, I will get a job as a firefighter. And then you realize when you get out, wait a minute, I can't get a job as a firefighter?
Man, like there was a discussion, I believe it was in the South somewhere. It was like a town hall meeting, and a guy he gets up and he gives this saying. He says he's like, yeah, man. He's like, I work at McDonald's. I'm proud to work at McDonald's. You know, I was like, it's a job. I'm taking care of my family. I'm doing what I have to do. He's like, but he's like, I was in prison. He's like, I was in prison. I did my time, but in prison I learned construction. Right? He's like, I learned how to do this. I learned how to do that. I worked on these things. And he was the same way. He's like, but I get out, I apply, and nobody's going to hire me because I'm a felon. He's like, but I have the training, I have the experience to do the job, but they won't give me a job. So now I got to work at McDonald's. He's like, y'all have to change these laws. It's like, it's just like when in Florida, prisoner or people, ex-cons just got the right to vote. Because if you were ex-con in Florida, you couldn't vote.
Right? Isn't it like that in most states?
I believe so, but it shouldn't be.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Or at least give it a certain length of time. Don't make it for the rest of your life.
But I feel like even if you commit a crime,
You still should have the right to vote.
you're still an American, right? They don't strip you of your citizenship.
Yeah, but that's the problem with the legal system, man. And like, it's so scary. Like, I know for me personally, my thing for the majority of my life is like, do not go to jail. Right.
Yeah.
Because
I think we spoke about this like a couple podcasts ago.
It's
too.
also that stigma of it will fuck your life up.
Oh, yeah, thoroughly.
You know? So it's like, I'm fortunate. I'm in an area of art and design where it's like half the people are criminals anyway. Right. But it's that stigma of like, it doesn't matter what you did. That little check that box, they'll just won't give you a job because of that.
Sure.
And it's just messed up when I'm reading these articles and there's people out there fighting these fires, saving people's lives, saving people's property, and then they still get shit on it. And
yeah, it's a weird world. I mean,
country.
It's a weird country. Yeah, it's weird that I think about it now. I never realized that. I've always known that if you're a felon, you don't get the right to vote anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But it never dawned on me, what's the point of that? Because if you go to jail and you serve your time.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, you've paid your debt for the crime you've committed according to the legal system. Sure, you're on parole or whatever, but once you finish all that, you're back to just being another citizen, right? Like, you should be a fresh start. So why would you not have your right to vote reinstated?
Exactly.
And I guess you could say that, it's to keep minorities from being able to vote.
Yes.
I guess that would be the most logical thing.
It's like Jim Crow laws.
Sure. Yeah. That would be the next jumping conclusion for that. But that's so. I mean, it still blows my mind that they use inmates to fight these fires. Like, that's how desperate they've. And
nobody else is going to sign up to do this shit,
right? For free. what kind of company do these celebrities hire that do this? Are they like private mercenary firefighters?
It's private companies. It's the same thing like these. What are the companies that hire prison labor? Starbucks, Whole Foods,
like
Amazon.
like to package their stuff.
Yeah.
But
It's a big industry.
Wait, but these companies that are doing it, are they using inmates?
Yeah.
Or is it the government that's using inmates?
No. You see,
Okay, I'm confused.
the prison, the majority of prisons right now, from what I've been reading about, the majority of the prison systems are private.
Okay, so they're not funded by the government.
No, the government pays these places to keep the inmates there. That's why it's such a billion-dollar industry, because these companies are building these high-tech, state-of-the-line prisons, keeping people there. There was one article where it was about a company sued the state because they didn't have enough prisoners in their prison.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
How is that even possible?
It's such a sickening business, man. There was a big thing about, they were saying, oh, Michael Jordan was involved with the prison system and all this stuff, but it wasn't the basketball player Michael Jordan. It was another dude named Michael Jordan. But for years, I'm serious, for years they were like, oh, Michael Jordan doesn't care about black people. Michael Jordan has you buying his sneakers, and this dude invests in these private prisons. But it wasn't him. It was a totally other Michael Jordan.
Did he ever come out and be like, that's not me?
I don't know. I saw the thing posted about it, and it
Wow.
was like, it shows the actual dude. I was like, that's just ignorance. That's why you got to investigate stuff.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, these private prisons, man, what goes on there, it's like, I don't know. I read about stuff and I'm like, people say, oh, you shouldn't shop here, you shouldn't shop there. If you look at the list of of companies who have products in it, like being made or some part of like prison labor, it's a lot. Nobody's gonna carry that list around them and be like, I can't shop here, I'm not gonna shop here, I'm not gonna shop here.
Right.
It's endless.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are plenty of companies that do use it that aren't on those lists anyways, right?
Yeah. It's like, what are you gonna do?
That's crazy. I never thought about that.
Yeah, man.
Now I don't know if I can shop at Starbucks. Just work at my coffee every morning. Son of a bitch. So staying with the whole California thing, crazy as fires. The caravan that everybody's talking about. So the way I understand it is that there is a large caravan of migrants coming from Guatemala,
Central America,
yeah. Just that general reason.
Yeah,
right?
I know El Salvador for sure.
Okay,
because that's like the worst part.
Yeah, and they're all headed towards the border in Mexico
for asylum,
to try to get into the United States for asylum,
which is legally a right that they have, because that's what on the books for the United States. People can come here and seek asylum. There's nothing wrong with that, but I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm not saying everybody should just get all together and just bum rush the United States. That's not like the brightest idea.
No, it is not.
I get it. I get if you want to get asylum, you want to come from a place that's like war torn and just violent. Fine, but whoever said like, hey, let's just get a bunch of motherfuckers and just bum rush
and just push in until one of us gets in.
That's not the right way to do it.
No, especially in this political climate with with the yahoos we have in office right now. That's a real dangerous proposition, and that's a lot of fuel for the shit that they've already, for the hate that they're already spewing now. Like when the Trump administration saw that, they were like, oh, this is gonna be so good. Yeah. Well, and then you sent in the group chat, you sent us a video on Instagram. Where's my phone?
Border Patrol agent.
Yeah, so from a Border Patrol agent, the account on Instagram is Corruptifornia, which I'm assuming is a California-based Instagram about the corruption in California.
It came up in my feed.
Yeah, so let's see. It's Corruptifornia. They've got 15,000 followers. And let me see here. So the video itself is of a Border Patrol agent talking about the caravan. The first wave of the caravan has arrived in San Diego. And you can see that there's people on the Mexican side of the border climbing and scaling up that wall that they have that separates the United States and Mexico, standing on top of the border, jumping off into the United States side. And the Border Patrol agent is essentially saying that, they're ready and they're trying to keep order and control at the border, and that they're going to arrest and prosecute anybody who illegally tries to get into the country. which is nuts because if you watch the video, you can see dudes straight up climbing that wall and standing right on the top of the border wall. And, you know, they're just like chilling. And it's.
There's another video they have.
On that same Instagram?
Fight breaks out at border.
Yeah. So it seems like shit's getting kind of real at the border right now, which, again, does not lend well for our current political climate and the people who are trying to convince the rest of the country that immigration and migration is terrible. I mean, I think we've spoken on it before, spoken on the topic of migration and borders, and I think we're fairly measured and reasonable in what we think about migration. You know, me personally, I think it's important that we're an open country for migration, but it's also very important that we respect the rules that are in place because they're there for a reason. Yeah. And I feel like most of the people in this country who are liberal and talk shit about the migration, for some reason believe like we are an exception to the rule where every other country is allowed to have border restrictions except us for some reason.
It's ignorance.
Right? Yeah. Because I've had this conversation with a ton of people and they're like, well, you have to just let people in. I'm like, no. Why would we do that? That makes no sense. Why would you just let everyone in? There's a reason why there's customs and border control.
It's ignorance. And it's I'm not going to sit here and say it's left, it's right, it's any of these stupid terms that people are throwing out. But we live in a society where we live in a country where the majority of people think with their feelings.
Oh, absolutely.
Instead of dealing with like facts and like, why is this right? Why is this wrong? Oh, I feel. Look, who cares what you feel? Like, you can't let everybody in because they want to come here. Right. It's like people, if people sneak into this country and they're working and they're not causing any problems, I'm like, cool, do your thing.
Exactly.
You know, you're not taking a job away from everybody. You're working a shitty job to take care of your family. Do your thing. But you gotta watch out with, like, you got a whole thousands of people coming here just bum rushing and saying F you to like the border. They're just gonna, I'm like, yo, that's the wrong way to do something, man.
Yeah.
You're picking a fight that you're not going to win.
No, because a lot of people on the American side of the border,
they're ready for something.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
it's
and they have all those dudes in Texas and Arizona that these self-appointed border patrol guys, these militias that will shoot the shit out of some Mexicans trying to cross the border.
The Minutemen, they've been around for a long time, man.
Oh, yeah.
And they've done things in the desert that nobody cares about. We spoke about this, and it was like, there's been murders, there's been beatings, there's been all types of things going on the border. And when people talk about it, they're just like, oh, well, they're illegals. It's like, no, this happened to somebody. You can't just say because they're illegal, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
These guys, nobody's putting them in check.
Nope.
And these immigrants are coming over in this big old caravan. I'm like, you're not ready for this shit.
The Minutemen or the caravan?
The caravan.
Oh, yeah.
They're coming over. The caravan's coming over, and it's like, you think you're just going to jump this border, you're going to bum rush it. And it's like, no, you're going to be met with violence.
Yep.
You know, and then if you survive, you'll be detained like a dog in a dog cage.
Yep.
And then you're going to get deported.
Yep. I mean, I remember.
And if you have a kid, your kid's going to be snatched from you and thrown in another fucking dog cage.
Another concentration camp.
Don't forget, we got to talk about that too.
Yeah. Was it 14,000 children? Some crazy number.
Man.
Yeah.
I still ask the question to this day. How come you're going to keep the illegal immigrant child and deport the illegal immigrant parent?
Yeah, what
sense does that make?
What are you doing with the kid?
Some kids are being detained. Some kids are being shipped to foster homes. Like, why?
Yeah, just keep them with their parents, send them both back.
Like, there's so many questions about that I'm like, whose idea was this?
Well, that's the inefficiency of government. You know, that's.
And then they admitted that they lost track of kids.
Sure. Government can't keep track of anything.
Like, what?
Anytime you look at the government, you have to think about what is.
But it's not the government.
Well, it is the government.
It's a division of. It's a section. It's just it's an organization.
Right, that's run by the government.
But we'll see. The government is multiple people, multiple divisions. Mm-hmm. It's not like one organization.
Right, but the way I look at it at least is when you look at the government, right? It's different pieces. It's like a giant circle that's chopped up into different parts that do different jobs. Mm-hmm. But when you have one central idea, which is the government, right, that funds all these different agencies and departments.
Mm-hmm.
There's, as you go up in the ladder, there's fewer and fewer people that are in charge of all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually you have a select group of people who are in charge of all these agencies, and they're not going to be able to keep track of all the things
They don't
going
even
on.
communicate.
Correct, which is where the inefficiencies happen.
Yeah.
And that is the main issue with government, and the idea of giving government so much power, that the government is so inefficient at doing things. You empower them more to be more inefficient, which makes everything worse down the line.
Mm-hmm.
So when I look at these camps with these children, and you see that one hand of the government is sending the parents back home, deporting them, and the other hand is keeping kids here and then losing kids, that's just one giant inefficiency of a government that should all be maintained by one central thing. Like, why are there two pieces of government handling two separate things? Why is there a child agency
Mm-hmm.
and an adult agency, and why isn't there just an immigration agency handling that?
You got FEMA, Immigration, Border Patrol, and I guess whatever the child welfare system is.
Right. It should just be
That's 4 right there.
It should just be immigration.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and talking about the caravan and the immigration thing, and I know we're going to talk about the whole huge voting movement that happened recently for the midterm elections, which I think they said was the largest turnout of voters in a long, long time. Like, they had a lot of people turn out to vote.
Great.
Yeah. But, we have a lot of Democrats unseated Republicans in a lot of different districts. In Arizona, I believe is the first time they've a lot of I think, what was the exact number? It was quite a few Democrats took big positions in Arizona, in a very red state. But a lot of these these liberal Democrats I'm seeing are like, we need to abolish ICE. Like, ICE needs to go. And I don't know if I fully formed my opinion on ICE. But I feel like, and if you know me, I'm not huge on law enforcement. I don't particularly.
I don't see why ICE needs to go. I don't like what ICE has been doing for the past couple
Correct.
of years.
But before that, they haven't done anything.
Exactly. That's why I'm like, I don't see why ICE needs to go.
Right. And I feel like if you were to question a lot of these ICE agents, they'd be like, listen, man.
They're following orders.
I'm just trying to do my job, you know? Like, before Trump got elected, when was the last time you saw ICE do anything remotely offensive? Nobody even spoke about ICE until Trump took office, and Trump empowered them or is ordering them to do this, because they have to listen to whatever their
new policy.
Yeah, they have, just like NYPD has to do what they have to do when the new chief comes in or the new mayor. It's one of those things. I don't know if you should abolish ICE. I think they play a role in security, right? I mean,
along the border.
Sure. I mean, but ICE is just immigration.
Yeah.
I don't know if they technically work the border, though.
Well, they work mostly in the border states.
Right.
They
do
the southern states.
Yeah,
Southwest.
they do like investigations and stuff.
Yeah.
They do like
trafficking.
Yeah, detective work, investigations, while the Border Patrol secures the border physically. But it is weird to see ICE like in New York City, where it's like a strange sight, right? Like, I've never seen ICE in New York City.
It's supposed to be a sanctuary.
Yeah.
Place,
which is also kind of weird, that idea of a sanctuary city. That's also kind of.
It's not.
It's not. It's
It's
hard.
Supposed to be.
It's hard to think of a city that's this wealthy and full of fucking rich people from other places feeling bad for immigrants, illegal immigrants.
I think New York is just as racist, or even worse than the South in a lot of ways.
It can be. You definitely see a lot of pent up racism here.
People talk about the South like it's so bad. I'm like, I live down there. I lived here, and here a lot of times it seems worse. People just do it in a different way.
Yeah, I feel like down south they'd probably be more like. It sounds weird, but more like a polite racism. Is that a thing?
I wouldn't say polite racism, but Southern hospitality does go a long way.
Like, they won't go out and be rude to you. Like, how can I put it? Like, I have like a mental image of what I'm trying to say.
No, I get it. No, people won't, like, from my experience, no, people won't be rude to you
for the sake of being rude.
Yeah, but up here, people will be. No, they won't even be rude. They'll be fucking offensive. And I'm like, just to do it. And I'm like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah. You here.
Like,
You're
what
talking
the
about yeah.
It's like, seriously, like, what is wrong with you, man?
Yeah. I mean, you see it all the time. Like when you go into like but again, I've never experienced this. But from what I understand, shopping in stores here, going into very high-end boutiques here, very overt racism, very, just the way people behave around you.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because New York City is such a diverse city, but in years has changed so much because of the money, how quickly the money has grown in the city. So now
the wealth gap.
Yeah, it's weird. It's
the divide has definitely stretched.
Yeah. What did you think about the midterm elections? Is there anything specific that you were following? Anything
but
overall,
because I'm independent, I wasn't allowed to vote during what was it, the one before the primaries? What was it? The middle one. It came in. We just voted, and it was a little few weeks before that.
Oh, yeah.
What was that called?
I forget.
It's not the primaries. It's something else.
It's not the primaries because the primaries is for the president.
Yeah. So the midterms.
The midterms was what we just voted for.
So what was it? What was it called? It was like, there was a name for it.
Yeah, I remember that with the.
And I was pissed because they tried to get me. I went in there as an independent because I just changed my form to independent after the last election because I didn't want to be under Democrat anymore.
Yeah.
Right. I just didn't feel like I shared Democratic values anymore, But I don't share Republican values either.
Right.
I feel what I feel. I believe what I believe.
I really wish there was a freak party.
A freak party?
Freak.
So during the previous one, when I forgot the name, but when I went in there and they gave me the new form, they were like, oh, yeah, because you changed, so here's your form, your ballot. And I'm like, I already had the people I was going to vote for, right? I was like, I did my research. I was going to cast my vote for them so then they could run in the primaries. And they told me I couldn't do it. I'm only allowed to vote for these people. And I was like, I didn't know who these people were on the ballot. I was like, I didn't know who they were. So I wrote my name in.
There you go.
I was like, John Smalls. And then I went back for the primaries like a few weeks later and I voted again for the people that I felt, I could stand behind. I'm still kind of mad that Cynthia Nixon didn't get in.
You were a Cynthia Nixon
fan? I was, man. I started, I didn't care for her at the beginning. And then I started following her. I started paying attention to what she was saying and the work that she was doing. And I was like, you know what? She is legit, man.
I got to tell you, I listened to a little bit of stuff she said, and I kind of wrote her off. There's something about a celebrity that runs for public office that bothers me. Just like there's something that is a career politician that bothers me. I can't say it's totally logical or rational. Don't know what it is.
We had a few.
But
Reagan.
Yep, sure.
Trump.
Schwarzenegger. Yeah. And I don't particularly like any of those.
Jesse Ventura.
Jesse Ventura is the only one I like.
And Cher's husband, Bono.
Sonny Bono. Yeah, and he slammed into a tree. Going like Mach 2 speed into a tree. Rest in peace, Sonny Bono. Yeah. But there's just like, of all the celebrity politicians that we just mentioned, Jesse Ventura is the only one I like, and I only like him recently.
Why is that? Why recently?
Because he's saying shit that makes sense now. First off, he's a conspiracy guy, which I find hilarious. And he's like a mainstream conspiracy guy.
I hate that word.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. He's like, he had that whole show with the aliens and shit.
No, it was called Conspiracy.
Yeah, but he talked about like aliens and shit. Yeah. And I thought that was like amazing. Like this guy was public office. He was a Navy SEAL. Like there's no, like you can't deny the dude's a badass. You can't deny the dude was a pro wrestler.
He hosted the show for little race cars. I remember I used to watch it.
Yeah,
like
he's the kind of dude you'd be like, yo, can I buy? If you ran into him in a bar, like, can I buy you a beer for being a fucking great American? He'd be like, goddamn right, you could buy me a beer. Like he would just be cool.
Yeah.
He's the kind of guy that would eat like out of the shared bowl of like pretzels at the bar. He's big on marijuana and the positive effects they can have and the bullshit that the industry, the pharmaceutical industry is doing to keep that from really flourishing. Stuff like that. Like he seems, he's a little kooky, but he was in Predator, so fuck you. He seems like a cool dude.
Mm-hmm.
He seems like somebody I can actually relate to.
Okay.
Whereas Cynthia Nixon, I can't relate to. What has she been in other than Sex and the City?
Theater. She's been on Broadway.
Broadway?
Yeah.
Who really goes to the theater?
But my problem with her, I think she shot too high to be governor. I was like, you should have stayed local.
Oh, yeah, instead of starting low and then working up to
I think,
governor.
Like, even now, it was just too ambitious. In that aspect, I'm like, you used to be an actress, now you're a politician, now you want to be governor. It's like, stop.
It's a big jump.
Yeah, work local, and then maybe if you can win local, then go to mayor.
Sure.
But don't just shoot
right to the top.
It's like,
yeah, I mean,
I was like, you just aim too high.
she did okay for, a
She
run.
wasn't going to throw out Como, though.
No.
Yeah.
Cuomo is like, there's just, again, career politician. He comes from a family of politicians.
She was going to win.
No, he has too much money. He has too many friends. But that's what bothers me. Like, if she is a better choice for governor, hypothetically speaking, she should have won, right?
Yeah.
But in the real world, it doesn't matter if she's the best choice. All that matters is who has the most influence and who has the most money, which would be Cuomo. Do I think Cuomo is the best for New York? For sure, no. Do I think she's the best for New York? Maybe.
New York City or New York State?
For New York City, it's almost like you have to separate the two because they're very different.
Yep.
For New York City, I think she would probably be better than Cuomo. For New York State, how familiar is she with the rest of New York?
Like, I'm always on the fence when it comes to, like, state politics.
Yeah, because it's
like,
so different.
At that point, I feel like there's that big disconnect.
Yeah, big time.
So I'm like, for me, I focus so much on local politics. What's going on in my district, what's going on in the surrounding areas. Because on that level, one person can have an effect. Whether it's you, me, or somebody else. Because we can go and meet that politician, we can go meet that alderman and talk to them. But once it gets past like the level of a mayor, it's like
it's hard to get FaceTime.
Yeah, and it's like
but it's also
the
like
issues that you bring up, do they really matter
in the grand scheme of things?
So it's like
it makes sense. I mean, I see that a lot with this neighborhood because this neighborhood that I'm in, I just joined the Facebook community page, and you can see that there are a lot of people who are actively pushing the community to get involved in what's going on here. And
before y'all lose it.
Yeah, and I know recently, or not so recently, but maybe a couple podcast episodes ago, I talked about the change in the zoning of this area that we're in, and how that's going to affect a lot of the local business and the people who live here. They're going to start putting high rises up in this area. It's going to change the landscape of uptown Manhattan, upper Manhattan in the coming years. But when we talk about state politics versus city politics, especially with New York City and New York State, it's so different because, like, if you look at, I don't know, Atlanta, right? If you look at Georgia, you look at Atlanta, you look at Savannah, all these other cities within, you still, even though Atlanta is a metropolitan and an urban city, I feel like that city, the people who live there can still relate to the people throughout the state because even though it's a city, it's still somewhat, it's not nearly as urban as New York City.
It's not so detached.
Correct.
As New York is.
Right. So when you look at New York, I feel like almost New York City should be its own state because New York City is so unique. The people who live here are surrounded by such a different type of world than the people who live in Westchester. And Westchester is only a 45-minute train ride outside of New York.
Different.
Total different way of living. And then when you go past that, when you go into Albany, Buffalo, Syracuse, wherever up there where it's the snowy tundras, like people who lived in Syracuse their whole life and people who live in Manhattan, who lived in like Brooklyn their whole life or Manhattan their whole life or the Bronx, those are two vastly different people with two vastly different worldviews who think of New York as a completely different type of state.
Outlooks, everything's different.
Right. If you live in Syracuse, and, this is me, somebody who's never lived in Syracuse, and I've only been to Syracuse like once. Maybe your fondest memory of where you hang out is like a fucking Applebee's or some shit, or a 7-Eleven, right? Like, or there's like a park or something. I don't know. Wherever people in Syracuse do.
Mm-hmm.
Skate parks, like skateboards. But like for a long time in New York City, like skateboards weren't a thing. Like skateboards only became really popular in the 90s in New York City. Oh yeah. Like the whole like punk movement, like skaters really didn't take off till like the super late 80s, early 90s.
Damn.
That didn't become a thing until then.
I wasn't even here then.
Yeah, like if you were like, in the 80s riding around on a skateboard in New York City, like people are like, that's kind of weird, but whatever.
It was big in Philly when I was a kid.
Yeah, but like for like New York urban kids, skateboarding was not a thing until the 90s. But like you go like upstate, that's a normal thing. Or like with guns, upstate.
Yeah.
If you're an upstate kid or an upstate person, you probably have seen a gun. You probably may have.
The laws are different.
Yeah, you probably had a rifle in the house. You know, in New York City, if there's a gun in your house, the chances are it was probably not legal. You know, like right, like you run through like, yeah, my dad's got a gun, but don't tell anybody because I don't know if he's supposed to have that.
Yeah.
You know, or like it was left over from like the 70s or 80s when New York City had no gun laws. Or, you know, like the 60s or whatever, when it was a lot more relaxed. Yeah, he's had it forever, but it's very different. And when I look at the politics of New York, it's almost I almost feel like, why do I even vote? Because it's there. I don't think there's a balance. I don't think you can really strike a balance between what people in the city want and what people upstate want. And I think there's a lot more people upstate than there are in the city, even though in the city there's like, what, 10 million people in New York City now?
In the city, we carry the majority of the votes here.
Yeah.
Which is why they say it's a blue state. You know,
true.
Because of everybody. It's not the people upstate or outside.
It's the people in Manhattan, the people in the city.
We're the ones who make the difference. Like a lot of times voting here is pointless because it's so to the Democratic side, it doesn't even matter.
Right. It won't matter. Make a difference how you vote, which is why when we voted for president, when the presidential election came out, I voted for Gary Johnson.
Yeah, because I was Jill Stein.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not voting for Hillary.
Hell no.
And I came very close to voting for Trump just to spite, just to be like, you know, fuck you. Just go. But at the last minute, I was like, you know what? Let me fill in Gary Johnson.
I heard a lady on a train ranting with some other guy about people in the South just didn't want to vote for Hillary. They couldn't, they're so old fashioned, they couldn't vote for a woman. I was like, yeah, there's that many people in the South that really gave a shit. Maybe people didn't vote for her just because she was a crook.
Maybe, right? Did it ever strike you that maybe people just don't like her?
Yeah, that too.
Right?
Maybe because she has a whole list of shitty things that had nothing to do with the emails.
Yeah.
Maybe she's just a bunch of shitty things.
She's just a shitty person. But you can't say that. People get upset, right? People are like, well, she would have been better than Trump. Maybe.
All I know is that people kept saying the lesser of two evils, and I'm not going to vote for evil. I never will.
Right. They're like, they're like, I've had this conversation multiple times recently.
Yeah.
And like, you have to vote for the lesser of two evils. I'm like, why would you vote for evil? Why? So you're telling me if I vote for Trump, I'm evil. If I vote for Hillary, it's a little less evil. If I don't vote at all, it's evil because it's going to help Trump. So no matter what I do, I make an evil choice. When did evil become acceptable?
That's a problem.
In my point of view, if I vote for somebody who has no chance of winning, but I believe in what they say, that's not, in my opinion, that's not a wasted vote, and that's not a vote that's helping Trump, because the whole point of the voting system is to vote for the person you believe is best for the job.
Yep.
It's not a team effort. It's not we all have to vote for one person because we wear the same color, because if you don't, then you're going to, by default, help this other person.
I would have voted for Bernie.
You know, I'm not a big fan of Bernie, but I probably would have considered voting for him.
They ain't pushed Bernie out.
Even though I'm not a big, and that's another thing. When that happened, everybody who was voting for Hillary should have not voted for Hillary after that happened, on basic scruples. Like, he's part of your party. He's on your team. He's on your team, and he had better ideas, and he was a better person. And you allowed...
That man's been around.
Yeah. He's a better person. Forget politics. Person. He's better. He's better. He's older than Hillary, too, so he probably has more life experience than Hillary. So why would you not? And he's from Vermont. He seems super chill. Like, why would you... Like, it blows my mind that people don't realize that. I'm like, you voted for Hillary? Great. Why did you vote for somebody who purposely sabotaged somebody else in her party? Why? and then pretty much copped to it when they got rid of the girl that ran the DNC, and then Hillary hires her as a thank you for helping her get to the primaries. You know, and now they're saying with the presidential election coming up that she's thinking about making another run for it.
Which I hope not.
If her and Bernie do another, I mean, I don't even know what's going to happen if Bernie tries to run again.
If he lives that long.
If he live like,
I mean, he is old as shit.
I mean, good for him for not giving up the fight, right?
Yeah.
But like, bro, you're old. Can you keep up with the demands that the presidency requires? Traveling all the time. I mean, if Trump can do it, and but Trump is also kind of like a genetic weirdo because he's hopped up on all kinds of drugs, and he's just not.
Wasn't it? He was taking like
speed,
adrenaline.
Yeah,
and shit?
Dude, fucking eats chicken wing, like, eats fried chicken, drinks Diet Coke nonstop, watches TV, and he's fine. He's like totally fine. He like you look at him, he's like, great, I'm great. How are you? I'm fantastic. I love life. Where's the rake? We got to rake up these forests. You know, like it's fucking crazy. Yeah. I look at him sometimes. I'm just like, I see, like, I try not to watch the news too much because it depresses me. But I'm watching him, and I'm just like watching him, not really listening to what he says or what he's doing, just looking at him. And I'm like, what the fuck are you?
Scumbag.
Like, it's so strange. It's so strange. I don't know. Is there anything else you want to say on the topic of this whole voting situation?
Him? Nah.
Oh, not him, but on the voting.
On voting?
On the voting stuff, yeah.
Hell, man, I don't know if it makes a difference. I don't.
Does it make you feel better when you vote?
No. I don't feel better when I vote.
Let me ask you this. Did you feel like your hands were tied with this election, this past? Because I felt like I was almost being hog-tied into voting Democrat down the line.
I mean, that's where we're at. That's that New York thing.
Like, you have no choice. But
you know,
usually I feel like I have a choice.
That I felt like I had more choices before.
Yeah.
Before we got to the primaries, that election I was telling you that was coming up, and you that's when you really push for the person you want. I was more excited about that. But yeah, going into it to the primaries, and I'm looking at the poll sheet, and I'm just like, of course it's going to skew Democratic. There was a few independent people on there that I appreciate, and I looked them up, but it wasn't enough. You know, it's just the environment that we're in.
Yeah.
You know, I hate it, but yeah, you know what? I guess I can say that my hands were tied. I felt like my hands were tied.
Yeah, I felt like I didn't have any kind of freedom of choice. Like, if I did not vote, like, I just looked down who was there, and anybody red, I was like, like, just what's been going on. I'm like, I don't know if I can vote for you, even if some of the things you say I get, like, I resonate with, because the rest of your party is fucking crazy right now. Like, don't get me wrong, both parties are crazy, but the Republican Party is, like, trying to set new records for some shit that I'm just like, why? We're going backwards in time. We're going back. Stop. We're moving in the wrong direction.
I said a few minutes ago that I don't feel it matters too much I mean, it's something that I do to be like, okay, at least I'm doing something. Just like it doesn't stop with voting for me, right? Like when people say they wear the sticker, they be like, "Oh, I voted today."
I hate that shit.
That's yeah. Lady was like, "You want?" I was like, "Oh, for what? I don't need to fucking tell people I voted. Just do shit." But the point I'm trying to make is like, I want like for me, I'll try to lead by action, right? Like if I go out there and vote, if I go out there and volunteer, if I go out there and do something for the community, I'm doing it for the community, and I want more people to do that. I hate those stickers when people say, "Hey, I voted today. Let me take a picture and selfie." And who cares? What else are you doing for the rest of the year? What are you doing for your community? Like, are you involved? Are you trying to figure out what's going on in your neighborhood? And I think that's a bigger problem. I don't like it's great that more people showed up to vote this term, but we got to keep that going. Yeah.
You know, that's something you got to scale up.
Yeah.
But people feel
they got a treat.
Yeah, they feel but they feel dejected from the process, and it also a lot of people I feel like they feel hopeless about where we're headed. I mean,
I do too.
I sort of do, and then I also like part of me is like, fuck it, I don't care. You know, whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen.
Space Force.
It's fucking into space we go. let's switch gears a little bit.
Sure.
Do we want to go down the dark rabbit hole of
Let's do it.
the mass shootings that have continued to go on and what that's like? Like, do we want to touch on? I mean, we've made our thoughts pretty clear on guns and stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
Self-defense is a must.
Yeah, hold on. Before we go there.
Okay.
We didn't talk about we talked about the fires, but we didn't talk about the whole survivalist aspect of that and and what people are either not doing or doing, or what.
Man, you know me. I keep, every time I hear something in the news, I check my go bag. I make sure it's updated. I make sure I have stuff for any situation that pops off. I make sure that I'm ready to go.
Yeah,
that's how I live, right? Especially in a place like New York. Matter of fact, on Saturday I went to like a pre-Thanksgiving thing, and they were talking about a lot of different subjects, and I was like, I'm not gonna jump in and just say some crazy shit. So I was just letting people chit chat, and I was like, when it was time for me to drop a gem on them, I was like, so I forgot what came up, right? But they were talking about some conspiracy nonsense. I was like, oh, if y'all really want to get bugged out, I was like, think about this. If something happens in New York, all somebody got to do is shut off all the bridges and you're trapped. And everybody was like, I was like, now what are you going to do?
Oh, man. I would have loved to see their faces.
And we just started talking about stuff. I was like, yeah, now what are you going to do? It was like, you can sit there and say, oh, I'll do this. I'm like, yo, if you shut off the bridges, we're screwed. There's no food coming in, no trucks, no nothing. It's just like, and then one guy told me about this. I know I'm going on a rant, but one guy told me about a podcast he heard when they were interviewing a guy who's, I don't know if he was a Navy SEAL, some type of dude in Special Forces, and his job or his team's job in Special Forces was to do things like that in America so they could test the vulnerability. And I think it might have been a podcast or a TV show. I gotta find out. But it was interesting because he was saying how they on whatever show it was, they were talking about if somebody was to do something in the tunnels, what would be the effect of it. And they were like, and the guy said, and I'm telling you, this is a story that they were telling me. He said that the guy said that it would be stupid to blow up a tunnel, even though they could, but it would be better to hit the subway trains because once the subways are all underwater, right? Yeah. So if you blow up one, it'll just flood the whole system. I was like, oh. And he was saying how the guy and his team, they go around the United States testing things and doing things like this to see like the police reaction, the system's reaction to like these minor threats. I was like, I got to find out what that was. I just remembered about it.
That's interesting. I wonder, like, I think about that a lot. I'm like, I wonder how many times a month, a year, local services gets like a warning or they see something and like none of us ever know what the fuck happened. Like, there's got to be something like that at least once a year, right? Where some shit goes down and police and everybody's like, whew, that was a fucking close one. Like, that could have been real bad, right? I'm sure it's so many things that you can't even imagine, you know? Because I feel like as New Yorkers, we're super vulnerable in the subway. Like, that's the one place where if shit was going to go down, we'd really be fucked. The thing I always notice is, like, whether I'm going to work or coming from work, and I'll start seeing police officers at every train station. I'm like, that worries me. That's not normal. Yeah. You know, and I'm like, all right. What bothers me when I start seeing police get onto trains a lot. Like, I know they take the train to go to wherever it is they're supposed to be at, but there have been times where I've gotten on the train and I get on one cart and there's like a lot of heavily armed police on the train, and they are trying their best to not look like they belong there. Like they're supposed to. They're trying. Normal. They think this is fine. Yeah. This is fine. We're on here with rifles. It's fine. And you have like two heavily armed cops, and then you have like an old Chinese lady eating some soup, and you're like, huh, this is strange. This is very strange. And then you get off at the train station, and you see more cops get on, and you're like, all right, what the fuck's going on? Why are you on here on like this fucking Q train at 9 a.m? You know, like that's what's going on. But I always think about that. I'm like, what would happen? Like, what would be the level of disaster if somebody like let off a bomb in the subway and just collapsed the tunnels? Like, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, right? To get flooded. Completely flooded. That would be a disaster. I don't think there'd be any coming back from that. Like, you can't. I mean, I guess with engineering, you could probably take a long ass time. Take a real long time to rebuild that. It's like that movie that came out, Bushwick, where they were the martial law, the troops from the South, for I believe Texas,
invaded New York and was taking over the major cities in the United States.
That's with Batista, right?
Yeah, and I like that movie because everybody dies. It's just it was like random people. I mean, the movie continues, but during the story, it's just like because of gun violence, you never know when you're gonna get shot,
right?
Random people just get
just bang,
pop, and just like you're done.
Yeah.
But even that story, which was filmed in New York, it made me think. I was like, man, what would you do to get from point A to point B? It's like the thing with the fires. If anything, people should be like, fuck, what will I do if this happens?
Yeah.
Because there's people who left their homes, home burnt down, all their stuff is gone. They're driving in their cars break down, the cars are just being lit on fire. It's just like,
and they're exploding.
What are you going to do in a situation like that? There was a movie I was watching earlier called Blackout, The Blackout. And it was about that. It was like a neighborhood. I didn't see it. I didn't watch it to the end, so I don't know exactly what caused the blackout. But there was like all the power grid went down across the United States, and the story takes place in a small town. And one of the guys knew. He was talking to the sheriff. He's like, you have control now, but really, really soon it's gonna just hit the fan, right? Because it was like food, clothes, shelter. People gonna get hungry. They're gonna want to. They're gonna want to ration stuff. It's like there's not gonna be any law and order. So in those situations, it's like, how do you survive? Are you prepared for that? And I don't think anybody's prepared for that. I don't think anybody's prepared for like natural disasters. People don't think about this shit. They're too comfortable.
Yeah. Especially with the fires, people were caught off guard. I mean, I know I talk about Joe Rogan a lot, but on his podcast, he was talking about, he's like, they knocked on his door at 2 a.m. and they're like, you guys got to go. He's like, the fires are right there. And he was saying one of his neighbors' roof just caught fire.
Damn.
And Joe was like, oh shit, there's nothing we can do. And he was like, you just get your family and you leave. He goes, everything you own, you leave behind. He goes, it's sad, it sucks, but it's just stuff, right? You can get more stuff. And he was like, he was talking about what it was like to just the experience of being woken up in the middle of the night and being like, you guys have to get out or you're going to die. And it's just an experience and a feeling that you either are prepared for or you're so unprepared that you don't know what to do. And that's, for me, that's like a terrifying feeling. And especially like in New York. I mean, I don't think we have to worry about wildfires in New York. But
building fires,
terrorism, natural disaster that we can't stop, like a hurricane, flooding.
There's been several buildings that just blew up in New York. Don't forget about that.
Oh yeah, gas that. Remember the one down the East Village went up?
That was a bad one.
Yeah, that was just.
There was one on 110th Street that just whole building just poof.
Yeah, imagine just being at home watching TV and all of a sudden just boom, just your whole shit just goes up. Like I would hope I just get taken out quick. Like I don't feel shit. Just
like earlier before we started recording, you were talking about how you can't listen to certain people because they're just too negative, right? Too dark and doom and gloomy.
It's just like not even that it's too dark. It's just it's too intense. Like it's too serious. It's too focused.
That's how I feel about like a lot of subjects now. It's like I don't even like to use the term conspiracy theory anymore. It's like I'll read about something, I'll hear about something, I'll read about it, I'll look it up, try to find out as much actual information I can on it. But then it's like, as for going down that rabbit hole, I'm like, I can't, because a lot of times, a lot of these people, they're not even spreading information. They're spreading fear tactics.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't need that anymore.
Yeah, it's too much. I've had to curtail a lot of that that I watch because it freaks me out. I've gotten to the point where it's an information overload. There's so much stuff that you can absorb and look for and read and watch, and there's just too much media. And with the way the internet is and people are and everything, you never know what you can trust. You don't know, like you don't have time to research everything.
No.
And I guess you take it with a little grain of salt that everything you ingest is biased one way or another. There's very few things that are straight up split down the middle with, fairness. I don't know. It's just, I've had to stop listening to a lot of podcasts because I was just like, this is too much.
The fucking TCG guys, fucking KKK is misunderstood. That got me heated, man.
I can imagine. That's crazy. I haven't listened to their stuff in a long time just because their long form stuff is a little just too loosey goosey for me. There's too many over talking. There's too many people on that podcast.
Yeah.
There's way too many people. I
It's
mean,
not as funny as it used to be, but that sealed the deal for me. I was like,
yeah, no, I can imagine. That's
oh, dude.
They said that the KKK is misunderstood.
Yeah.
That's so bizarre. Did they not watch Black Klansman?
Yeah. I saw that.
Such a good movie. So good. So good. One of my coworkers, I was telling them that we're doing the podcast again.
Okay.
That we're starting to back up, and he mentioned that we should talk about our personalities.
Why?
He said that. Well, he was speaking mostly to me. He goes, "You always have really weird opinions on things," and he said, and I thought it was kind of a good idea. He's like, "You guys should just do an episode where you go back and forth, and you talk, you pick a topic. Like, I propose to you the topic. Tell me your thoughts on manspreading on the train, and then you just kind of riff, honestly, about what you think about that topic.
Okay.
Because I was talking to him the other day, and this crazy old lady came up to me, and I said some crazy shit about this old lady. I was like, that chick needs to be fucking beaten to death with a fucking sock full of pennies. And he just found it like so funny. He was like, that's such a weird way to think about it. And I was telling him, I was like, I would straight up fist fight a grandma on the train if I had to. It's not even a problem.
Okay.
He's like, but you can't do that. I'm like, I would totally do that. I would totally fist fight a grandma on the train if I had to, and it would not feel bad about it. And he was like, that's such an odd thing to do, and to like the fact that you would think about that, it's so strange. I'm like, what? You never think about beating up grandmas on the train? What's wrong with you? You never, like, just weird shit like that.
All right.
I think it could work. It could fail miserably, but I think if we come up with some topics and we go back and forth, I think that could be an interesting episode.
I think I'm open to it. I like when we have our conversations; they're a little bit more organic. But you had said that he said that your ideas are a little strange.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you're the more sane one out of us.
Then I think that this idea would be awesome.
I tend to think like I'm the one who's like a little far-fetched. That's why a lot of times I try to calm down and keep myself reserved because I'm like, I can go off the deep end quicker.
Well, this would be a great episode to jump off that deep end. But we got to come up with some like cool topics that we think people would actually like to talk about. Which brings me and segues me into my next part. If you have any topics that you'd like to hear us talk about, you can email us at chicoatthegrin@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. Yeah. Write in. Don't be a bitch. Were there any other topics you wanted to talk on? We're closing it at the 1 hour mark.
Nah, not at the moment.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here at Chico and the Grin. This is episode number 29. We've taken a little hiatus, but we are back. We're going to start getting back on this bi-weekly podcast.
That's right.
So, we're gonna do our very best to come up with cool things to talk about. They're not all going to be sad or dark. We'll have some silly episodes. We'll start with our movie reviews again. We were talking about maybe going to go see At the Gates of Eternity, the new Van Gogh movie.
Oh, yeah.
Go give our review on that. I checked out...
shit. I was supposed to talk about the Delacroix exhibit.
Talk about Delacroix exhibit. We got time. Go.
It's good. It's kind of one of my favorite exhibits that I've been to at the Met. I put it up there with the Michelangelo exhibit.
That was a good exhibit.
Or the John Singer Sargent exhibit. And the reason I say that is because this exhibit, they showed his entire career, and they did a great job doing that.
And which museum is that?
The Met.
The Met. Okay.
Metropolitan Museum of Art. Because they take you from the different stages in his life. At one stage he was painting portraits, and then he was traveling, or he was doing religious work, or he was doing animals, because he did that for a while. I don't know why. He just started painting like animals, tigers and stuff. And like just seeing this man's body of work, it was intense. And then there were some photographs of like his studio, and you see like, shit, he had paintings everywhere. But for me, the man himself was legit. He was a person who really appreciated art and loved art, and it showed throughout his pieces. And there was like one famous portrait of him that he made when he was like 40 years old. I think it might have been his first portrait, or his first published work was that portrait, and he was trying to get into like some exhibition, which would forced him to do it, or not forced him, but encouraged him to do it. Oh, what the hell was that?
Oh yes, that new Mortal Engines, that
Got
new
it.
movie. Sorry, I have the TV on. It's on mute, so
I saw some steampunk stuff. I was like,
yeah,
this looks cool.
It's super steampunk. Yeah.
All right, but let me read you a couple quotes that I wrote down from the Delacroix exhibit.
Go for it.
He put, "I must make many sketches and take my time. That above all is where I need to make the progress. The main thing is to avoid the infernal facility of the brush. Instead, make the medium difficult to work with like marble. That will be completely new. Make the medium resistant so as to conquer it patiently." He also said, "The artist who aims at perfection in everything achieves it in nothing."
That is, that quote resonates big time.
I learned a lot. I saw the exhibit, I think 3 times now, maybe 2 or 3. Yeah, I think 3 times now. I'm gonna buy the book. It's one of those exhibits I'm like, yeah, this was well worth it. There was 3 pieces that I enjoyed. One of them was gigantic piece of like Christ on some rocks with like the crucifix and some people in the background. And it was like, it was just huge. It was intense. And then there was 2 other pieces around a corner that were like very chiaroscuro, like the contrast of the lights and darks and stuff. But there's also at the Met Brewer the conspiracy exhibit, conspiracy and everything.
Oh yeah. I saw the ads for that.
It's good. It's not great, but it's worth checking out.
Okay.
There's a lot of clips and a lot of collage art with Lee Harvey Oswald. You know, I didn't sit there and read all the fine print, but some cool stuff. A lot of stuff about JFK, Black Panthers. It's kind of tame, as I expected them to do more, but you know, wasn't bad.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I wanted to check out the conspiracy one at the Met Brewer, and I didn't even know Delacroix was going on. So is that, I'm assuming that's still going on at the Met?
I believe so.
Okay.
Probably I want to say at least to January.
Okay.
Because normally when they have something that starts in October, it goes to like next year. So at least January, February. There's one more exhibit I want to mention. At the Wallach Gallery, that's Columbia's University's gallery on 125th Street. That gallery, amazing. I bought the book as soon as I hit the exit. They have an exhibition on Black women in European art, or African women in European art. And this is like Renaissance art or Impressionist art or Cubism, any of those movements from Europe. Some American painters were in there too, but man, it was saying how like a lot of, because they would have like some photographs, and they would have like the actual painting, and they would show like the woman that was the model for the painting. And a lot of these painters would have like Black women as models, and it was just to shed light on like a lot of these artists, or a lot of the periods throughout art, Black people are like pushed to the side, or we're not like talked about.
Sure.
Right. But this exhibit was just shedding light on like, yeah, there was people behind the scenes who actually like influenced these works of art. Yes, the final piece might have been a white woman or a European woman, but the people who helped the artists during the time was like the Black models and stuff. And it was just shedding light on the women involved. And there was just so many different styles of art, man. It was like, it wasn't just this era, that era, or that era. It was just like just tons throughout art history. But I think the oldest ones were maybe, I want to say like the late Renaissance, and then some like modern art.
That's still pretty old.
It was some great pieces, man. Some really great pieces. And that's another one I had to visit. I went there once, but it was like, okay, normally I go through, look for the pieces I like, and it was like all the pieces I like. I was like, I had to stop, like literally read. And it was open at night, so it was kind of crowded. So I didn't get to take my time as much as I wanted to, but I definitely got to go check that gallery.
And that was the Wallach gallery?
The Wallach is WALLACH. And it's just, it opened up, I think earlier this year or last year. It's part of the Columbia University's new building on 125th Street. And it's a lovely gallery because it's a whole floor and all the windows are glass. You look over Harlem, down there by Dinosaur Barbecue.
Sure.
That area.
Oh yeah.
It's a free gallery too.
Okay.
You should check it out. But
yeah, for sure.
it's nice, man. And yeah, like I said, as soon as I was done, I hit the exit. I was like, he like the books, and one guy was looking at it. I didn't even open the book. I was just like, here, just swipe the card.
There you go.
Yeah, man.
You always know when an exhibit's good when you buy the book at the end.
So much shit in there. The Delacroix, I wanted to get the book, but I was like, I bought enough books from the Met. I'm gonna buy this one off Amazon. I was like,
yeah, the Amazon. I mean, those books at the Met are expensive. When you hit the exit, it's like $90 for a book.
They get you,
and then
I'm like,
the worst part is you buy it and then you can't help yourself. You look at how much it is on Amazon. It's like $40 on Amazon. You're like, fuck. Yeah, I hear you.
I got that Michelangelo book, and I'm like, it's just so pretty.
It is. It's a beautiful
cover.
book.
I'm like, that's a nice one.
I still have the other book at my old place, the Irving Penn Centennial book. That book's amazing. I have all my photos. I gotta get a bookcase for this place, but I think we're gonna be looking to buy a new place soon. So
that's good.
Yeah, I'll wait to buy a nice like oak bookshelf. Maybe I'll buy a haunted one. End up in a story or some shit.
Cabinet of Curiosity.
Yep.
I want one of those.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. That was episode number 29. Thank you for joining us.
Yep.
As always, we encourage you to communicate with us. Let us know what you think. Chico and the Grin at gmail.com.
Yep.
Chico and the Grin on Instagram. And I forget, do we have a Twitter?
Yes.
Chico and the Grin on Twitter. And on Facebook as well. You can find us at facebook.com/Chico and the Grin. We would love to hear from you.
I'm no longer on Facebook, so you got to handle that.
That's fine. Yeah, I noticed you weren't on Facebook anymore.
Close my account.
Yeah.
Permanently deleted.
Permanently deleted?
Yeah, for about 2 months.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like I saw you on Facebook not too long ago.
Nope.
Because I went to go search for you, and I couldn't find you. I went to go put something on your wall.
Nope.
It was a cat video.
Completely closed. Deleted.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about why you did that?
It was just a waste of time.
Okay. Just distraction?
Nah, it was just, like, for years, I didn't like Facebook. You know, the only real reason I used it is because of my fan page, but then the algorithm got like once they changed the algorithm, I wasn't even interacting with people on my fan page anymore.
My interaction on my work, the business page, is terrible.
And then it was a few groups I was in, art groups, where I was like, okay, we will feed each other jobs, but then even that became just like, what's the point? You know?
Sure.
So
yeah, just
I was debating it for so long, and I was like, you know what? And then one thing that really pushed me was like, that was a one site people were just so negative, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of negativity.
It's
on
like
Facebook.
For some reason, I follow these same people on all other social media that I have, Twitter, Instagram, but Facebook, people were fucking negative, and I was like, I'm done with this. I was like,
yeah, I feel like you could probably clean up a lot of negativity in your life by limiting Facebook or removing it completely. Okay, well that's good to know. I was wondering what happened there.
Yeah, right. That was it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We will see you again shortly for episode number 30 in about a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Yep.
Until then, goodbye.
Peace.